Welcome back to Beyond Wisdom, where we explore timeless truths for a more peaceful and meaningful life. In our world today, the noise never stops. Between constant notifications, endless to-do lists, and the pressure to always be on, stillness has become something we chase, but rarely find. Yet, if we look to the past, we discover something powerful. Many ancient cultures lived without the modern noise, not just because their world was quieter, but because their values were different. These values weren't just practical. They helped quiet the mind in a way we still long for today. In ancient China, the Taoist sages didn't try to force life to move faster. They spoke of Wu Wei, effortless action, moving in harmony with the natural flow rather than against it. This wasn't laziness, but a deep trust in life's unfolding. To them, rushing was a kind of violence, against ourselves, against time. Today, we fill our days with hurry and hustle. But look at a river. It flows without stress, yet it carves canyons. The ancients observed this and modeled their days after the rhythm of sunrise and sunset, of planting and harvest. When we reconnect with natural rhythms, waking with light, stepping away when the body is tired, listening instead of reacting, the noise of life softens. In nature's pace, the mind finds quiet again. In many indigenous cultures, silence wasn't awkward. It was sacred. The Lakota people, for example, believed that true understanding often came not through words, but through listening. They were taught from a young age that silence was the ground of respect, reflection, and connection. Today, we often rush to fill silence with sound, podcasts, videos, chatter, fearing what might rise in its place. But when we honor silence as the ancients did, we remember that not all wisdom speaks aloud. Some of the deepest truths arise when we sit quietly with ourselves, with others, with the world. Even a few minutes of intentional silence each day, not to achieve something, but to simply be, can remind us that peace was never far. We were just talking over it. The Stoics of ancient Rome, like Seneca and Epictetus, warned against the endless hunger for more. They saw how ambition, when unanchored, becomes a trap, always reaching, never resting. To them, enough was not just a practical limit, but a moral and mental clarity. If you can enjoy a simple meal, they believed, and still feel full, not just in your stomach but in your heart, then you are richer than a king who is never satisfied. In a modern world wired to feed desire, more stuff, more clicks, more attention, remembering the old value of enough becomes radical. It's not about rejecting success. It's about not letting desire control your mind. Simplicity doesn't mean poverty. It means peace with what already is. In Japanese Zen, the practice of kinhin, or walking meditation, was a way to carry mindfulness into motion. Monks would take deliberate, quiet steps, not to get somewhere, but to be fully where they were. Every footstep was a kind of prayer. Contrast that with how most of us move, fast, distracted, already thinking of the next moment. But when we walk slowly, not just physically, but through all we do, even small actions become sacred. Washing dishes, making tea, folding clothes. These can quiet the mind when done with presence. Ancient cultures weren't in a rush, not because they lacked ambition, but because they didn't measure worth by speed. They knew the mind reflects the pace of the body. Slow down, and clarity returns. Ancient Greeks had a word, eusebeia, that meant reverence for the divine order of things. It wasn't tied to one god or temple. It meant living with respect for life, for death, for the mystery in between. Reverence is different from belief. It's a posture of humility and care. In today's culture of consumption, we often treat life as something to use, not to honor. We scroll past beauty, chase the next thrill, forget to say thank you. But when we bring back reverence, pausing before a meal, noticing the moon, thanking the earth for what it gives, something shifts. The noise of wanting quiets. The soul remembers its place. Reverence turns daily life into something sacred again. In every tradition, there were those who carried stillness like a presence. Elders, monks, storytellers, wise ones. People who didn't speak much, but when they did, it mattered. Today, we're often surrounded by loud voices, opinionated, hurried, always broadcasting. But stillness is contagious. Find someone who listens more than they speak, who chooses their words with care, who sits with silence without discomfort, and your own mind begins to settle. The ancient value here isn't just stillness, but the kind of community that nourishes it. Not performance, but presence. Not noise, but depth. Seek people whose energy calms you, not just excites you. That's ancient wisdom in human form. The ancient Egyptians kept death close, not in a morbid way, but in a wise one. They believed a good life required remembering its end. The Stoics agreed. You could leave life right now, wrote Marcus Aurelius. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Today, we avoid death, push it to the margins, deny it. But this denial feeds anxiety. Ancient cultures knew, when you carry death gently in your awareness, life becomes sharper, kinder, more meaningful. You argue less. You appreciate more. You slow down. You pay attention. Death, when remembered calmly, quiets the noise of ego and urgency. It brings the mind home. The world we live in may be louder than ever, but the mind hasn't changed. It still longs for the same things it always has: peace, clarity, meaning. And while we can't return to the ancient world, we can return to its values. Stillness isn't something we buy or chase. It's something we remember. And when we do, we realize the silence was never gone, only waiting beneath the noise, like a deep well under the surface. What old value helps you quiet your mind in a busy world? Share your thoughts. We'd love to hear them in the comments. Thanks for watching. If this video brought you value, subscribe to Beyond Wisdom. Until next time, stay calm, stay strong, and stay wise.